And welcome to another edition of the Spoiler Room. Happy holidays, everyone, or whatever holiday you celebrate. We're getting festive, bloody festive here today on the Spoiler Room. It is December, so I figured, why not talk about a Christmas movie? Now, the reason what also caused me to do this, I was watching this movie, and I'm like, after I finished it, I'm like, I've got to talk about this one. So today we're talking about A Christmas Horror Story. It's a anthology, multi-layered film, multiple stories going on, and I've got a great crew tonight to help talk about this very interesting horror anthology. First off, we have the diva of the Spoiler Room, Miss Dawn. Hello, Dawn. How are you today?
Hello, Mark. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Glad to have you here. And next to her is the Spoiler Room regular, the BFD, Mr. Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn.
Hi.
Hi. He says hi with the pie. Huh?
Hi.
Oh, you said pie. He's enjoying some holiday pie today. And next to BFD is the Bowtie Man himself, Paul Salzer. Hello, Paul. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. Appreciate you coming on. And we have a returning guest. She hasn't been here for quite a while. Listen to her sweet, sweet pipes on the new Film Jerks 2.0, which she is on with Paul. And it is Miss Angelique Bone is here today. Hello, Angelique.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad you could join us. Always glad to have some fresh blood in the Spoiler Room. And blood is right because tonight's movie is definitely bloody and Christmassy, so it covers all the bases. According to IMDb, the way it describes it, interwoven stories that take place on Christmas Eve as told by one festive radio host. A family brings more home than a Christmas tree. A student documentary becomes a living nightmare. A Christmas spirit terrorizes, and Santa slays evil. Okay, I admit, when I watched this, we picked this as random. We were doing a commentary show for We Live Entertainment, and I was looking at a film on what to watch and kind of a holiday horror film, and I'm like, just randomly picked this one. And I will say, the cover art for this film does not do the film justice, and I think that right there might have turned some people off. We'll start with Angelique tonight, since she's the newest voice here. Angelique, when you saw the cover of A Christmas Horror Story and then you saw the movie, wouldn't you say that the cover really is just misleading and off-putting?
I wouldn't say off-putting. It is misleading in that it's just Santa standing there, right, or Santa's face. Well, if I remember correctly, yeah.
There were two of them. There's a Santa with just his face, or the one with Krampus and his chain whipping around Santa, like it's Santa versus Krampus is the whole story.
I've only seen the Santa's face one, and I mean, he's not the most friendly-looking Santa Claus.
Sure.
So it was kind of like, are we doing a Silent Night, Deadly Night kind of thing, or is this something different? But I didn't watch it by choice. I was home visiting my parents, and my mom was like, we're watching this. I said, okay.
And were you surprised by the film?
Pleasantly surprised, yes.
Yes. I will say I was pleasantly surprised, too, especially considering the cover looks like an Asylum Pictures reject. Paul, what about you? Were you kind of surprised by this film, given how it kind of looks and even how it was described?
Based on the cover, I would say that it is very misleading. It does kind of look like a Swedish death metal record. It really does. I mean, it looks really awesome, stylized. You got that Krampus with his horns. He's got that chain whipping around Santa Claus, and you got Santa Claus with his back up there. He's kind of like like a Norse god type thing, carrying a spear, ready to attack. But when you actually get to watch the story, that's just one fourth of the stories that are going on. You know, there's a lot of other things going on which makes the story a lot more appealing. So I actually was very pleasantly surprised, and I was glad that you suggested this movie to watch.
awesome to hear. And we will dive into each of these stories, but I just want to get the initial reactions of everybody when they saw this compared to what you see before going into it. Glenn, what about you? When you saw this, were you surprised it was rather different than the cover?
I didn't see the cover at all.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Nope.
Where did you end up seeing this? Was it online as well?
I just did a search on Netflix and hit play. I didn't even look at
Did it surprise you, considering it was a random kind of pick?
I knew it was an anthology, so no.
No, but
No.
Quality production, everything, you thought it was decent? Not a real surprise for you?
It was decent.
Yeah. Better than, I'd say better than most direct-to-video stuff, especially stuff that's holiday-themed. How about you, Don? Did this film surprise you once you started watching it? Hello? Don?
What did you do to Dawn?
Talking. I'm really talking.
Oh,
There you go. We lost
I'm
you.
really,
for a
really
minute.
talking.
Silent Night.
So I happened to see this at the video close late. I went, ooh, Christmas Horror Story. I'm getting this. So I didn't even read the back. I popped it in and liked it. It was, like Mark had mentioned.
Oh, we're losing you, Don. We've got some lag from you there. You're dropping out quite a bit, actually. Don? Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, there you are.
You're back.
Oh, I have no idea what's going on with my thing because my internet says I'm fine.
Well, hopefully you weren't.
It's
not
lying to me.
Hopefully it's not updating in the background for you.
No, I made sure it was completely updated before I started the show.
Okay. Well, let's try again. Did this film surprise you then with it being a random pick and you get it home and given how it kind of looks on the cover and everything?
It did. It was a much higher quality.
Don, you cut out again.
The Krampus does not want Don to talk about this movie.
No,
Apparently not.
Maybe drop out, drop back in.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to.
Yeah, why don't you? We'll just wait. We'll be patient. The joys of... And now a musical interlude. How many of you are going to watch Rogue One this weekend? Anyone?
I am.
I'm too sick. I can't.
I am not seeing it this weekend. I'm seeing it tomorrow.
Ooh.
Dun dun dun.
I would have actually taken my kids tomorrow to go see it, but they've got exams the next 2 days, and it would have been a later show when we got out, and my oldest wanted to kind of be more fresh for his exams, so he asked if we could see it on Friday, and I'm going to wait and see it first time viewing with them.
Nice.
Excited. So, yeah, it'll be our second new Star Wars premiere, seeing it together. We did technically see a Star Wars film in the theater, aka Phantom Menace, when it came out in 3D, but they do not like that film. And they were young at that time too, and they're just like, yeah.
Having watched it again, it is not as bad as I remembered it because I was so nostalgically loving it at the time. You know?
Oh no, Don's internet just completely cut out.
Whoa.
No.
Well, I will see. So Don's internet seems to have cut out. Oh,
there she goes.
Wait, there she is.
Okay.
Don?
Damn. Yeah, my internet just completely cut out.
We had that happen the other day with Charter, so...
The gift that keeps on giving.
So
It is.
odd.
You sound better now, too, though, so whatever was going on.
Well, that's good.
So let's try again. Don, Were you surprised about this film when you saw it, and you just picked it up and put it in the machine?
Yes, I was.
All right.
Yes. So the cover art you'd mentioned,
Yes.
yeah, it was very Asylum-like. And so I went into it expecting, cheesy Sharknado of the Christmas variety. And I was very pleasantly surprised. The Krampus creature looked as good on film as the cover art, which, yay.
Rarely
And,
happens.
and yeah, and I was also expecting. Once I realized it was an anthology film, I was expecting it to be the one following the other, rather than everything intertwined so thoroughly.
Yeah, I like that bit too. When I saw anthology, I thought immediately that it was going to be, okay, chapters. You're going to be like kind of a Crypt Keeper type of thing where it's going to be a wraparound and you're going to get, the short stories. I did not expect them to be interconnected the way they did. And I like that. That was, that was surprising to me on it. And so you do get these interconnected stories going on, and they are loosely, I guess, all tied together thanks to a very familiar face who is a DJ in the town where all of these creepy things are happening. We've got haunting of a school that kind of goes awry, a school project investigating the haunting. We've got, we've got this kind of creepy thing that happens to a kid on Christmas after they go hunting for a Christmas tree. There's a dysfunctional family that kind of has the sins come to surface and are haunted by Krampus. And then there's Santa taking on zombie elves. Trust me, it'll all make sense. But Shatner, Shatner was hilarious in this, and he's funny in general. But Glenn, did you get the idea that they just gave him some whiskey and a microphone and said, here, talk for about half an hour and hit these points at some point?
Probably. He's Shatner, so I'm sure they didn't tell him much because I don't think he's capable of taking direction very well. As in, I don't think he wants to. I mean, he's, his rather inflated ego even still.
It's amazing they fit it in the radio booth, but I liked him in this. I kind of liked his character and how he got kind of drunk as he went on. And especially when you get to the big reveal at the end, the way he's talking makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
Sure.
He's mentioning things about the mall and that, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you realize they're connected. Though the description gives the impression he's telling these stories. I never got that impression that he was telling the stories as much as they were just occurring all at the same time.
That's kind of the impression I got too.
Yeah, so the description's a little off on that. Paul, what'd you think of Shatner?
I liked his character. I thought it was a good rapper for this film. Mm-hmm. He seemed very, he's the type of character that I would expect this story to have. Mm-hmm. And like you said, as he goes along, he the short amount of time that you see him on screen, he does develop as a character. He starts starting out kind of normal, and then he gets more and more drunk, and he gets a little bit more loose, and I really enjoyed that about him, because as he loosened up, I think the audience was given permission to loosen up as well. Mm-hmm. So it felt good.
Yeah, I will say, for who he is, it surprised me he showed up in a direct-to-video film like this, which makes me wonder if they had higher aspirations for this movie at one point. What about you, Angelique? You think that? Because it surprised me that even for Shatner, and I know he hasn't been a lot, that he would show up as a cameo in a direct-to-video movie like this.
I mean, even for direct-to-video, the quality of this film is amazing. Mm-hmm. I was so impressed. There was not that much CGI. There was a lot of practical going on, and it was just really well made, well shot. And I mean, even just the cutaways that melted into each different section, including the DJ sections, were just spot on. So maybe I don't know. Maybe he was given the story and was like, "Yeah, this is a great idea. I'm in. Give me some whiskey."
Well, you get a bottle of whiskey with it too. All right, I'm in. Dawn, for you too, did it surprise you that Shatner showed up in a film like this? I mean, the production is high, so do you think as well that maybe they were expecting possibly getting a wide release?
I think maybe they probably expected a wider release. Either that or they're expecting one heck of a cult following. Because it seems that Christmas-themed horror is becoming more popular.
We do seem to have a lot more of it than we did even 10, 15 years ago. It really seems to come along, and we even had wide release films like Krampus last year, which I enjoyed quite a bit, and surprised that it made it to the big screen. And in fact, one of those things is while I'm watching this film, I'm like, wow, I can't believe this film didn't actually get wide release. Because of the quality, the people, the acting, and the fact you even have that Shatner cameo in it, at least a little more screens than what it was. I think it mostly lived on the festival circuit. So we're going to dive into the stories here. Besides being introduced to the DJ, Mr. William Shatner, who has a co-worker who's heads down to the mall, we have a couple of other stories going on. In fact, we are introduced first to the kids who are doing a investigation of the haunting, and we're going to talk about this story first. They intertwine, but I think we're going to take each story separately here, just to for consistency's sake. So this one, the teens investigating the haunted house, which ties into one of the other stories, because the cop haunted school, because it ties into one of the other stories, because two kids died in the basement of the school mysteriously, and people think it's haunted, and a cop who shows up later was in part of the investigation. But this film, this story first, I thought, for me, was kind of the weakest, in all honesty, for the most part, for this one, because it felt, I don't know, the least deep. I'm not sure. Maybe I took it wrong. Don, how'd you feel about the storyline with the girl and the two camera guys going in the basement and that? How'd you feel about this story?
It's your basic supernatural ghost possession story. Yeah, I don't think that they went real deep with it. But then again, they didn't really have time to do a thorough job of it.
Sure. But I mean, just out of all of them, this one felt like the most, not to say cliche, but basic, considering the other stories of what we had. Though I will say, there's a moment in here, and there's a reason why this was unrated, that it gets uncomfortable at one point in this film with a specific scene that involves the girl, because they go down in this basement and they're supposed to be haunted, and some really creepy stuff happens, and they're investigating, and it's revealed that there's a spirit of a girl down there. And Glenn, how'd you feel about this story? Really, would you say this one was probably the most basic, or cliche? Thank you.
Cliche.
And what was it that was there? When you watched it, what would you say stood out for you first and foremost, besides it being cliche, that it just followed all this typical?
It followed all the standard stuff. It's part of the problem I had with this entire film, was that you had a couple of fun stories and you had a couple of duds. And the fact that they do this, let's cut between all of them throughout the whole film, I'm like, oh, this part's really good. Oh, and now we're back to the freaking school. Awesome. Great. Great. I'm going to just check my Facebook. And it was the problem I had with it, is that you have this not really, for the most part, interconnected stories. I mean, there's that little bit. It's like, oh,
Right.
that one girl from that story knows these people. Right?
Mhm.
Okay, that's not really a big connection. They're not really tying anything together with it. So there's no need to do this shooting back and forth. I think it would have been better served doing it just as like a Tales from the Crypt type thing where Creep Show, where you just go boom, 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 boom. There's your 4 shorts. You're done. Wrap up on the whole Santa one.
The Santa one, which we will talk about.
Maybe even open with Santa and then do the other ones,
Mhm.
and then finish the Santa one at the end. Something like that.
Oh, that would have been
That would actually been better.
Yeah, I will say that the cutting I did find interesting, but at the same time, you're right. You'd get into one of the stories, and then you cut back to the other one that might not be quite your favorite. Angelique, how about you with this first story? Would you say it's probably the most cliche, and would you have preferred it going in order a little more in chapters versus cutting back and forth?
I would have preferred that they just do 3 stories instead of 4, actually.
Kind of skip this one?
Yeah, this one was just, as everybody said, it's just completely cliche. And I'm sorry, her skirt was way too short for the weather up there. She was not dressed appropriately for the conditions.
She was not dressed appropriately to go investigating for ghosts, in other words.
That actually
my
didn't.
daughter.
That didn't bother me at all, because living in Milwaukee, when I go down to North Avenue on a night like tonight, where it's probably 5 degrees out, there'll be girls out there in miniskirts running between the bars because you got to look fashionable.
Sure.
I'd rather not get frostbite.
Well, yeah, but frostbite
Especially
doesn't play into impressing the boys.
Well, I mean, I guess if you lose a leg, you got a cool story, but
There you go. Positive.
Well, certain things might get frostbit that you don't want frostbit, like Dawn mentioned.
Well, I noticed at first when they first got out of the car, she had not tights, but like thigh-high stockings that went almost all the way up to the bottom of the skirt.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we get towards that end, the stockings were just peeking above the boots.
Well, she had to try to, she was trying to seduce the first guy who was the boyfriend of her best friend, who was in another one of the other stories. So, she had to roll the stockings down a bit. But yeah, I don't know. Paul, did you feel this was cliche?
I didn't find it as cliche as it seems like the rest of you did.
Mm-hmm.
I did agree that it is the weaker of the 4 stories. But I did get enjoyment out of this story because I looked into it as kind of a peer pressure reflection. These are teen people having to deal with relationships and coming together and the whole stereotype. They start out with the ghosts past, and the whole school used to be a coven type of place, and this area was where they kept all the unwed mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that, okay, that's what the story is about. It's about being locked in this kind of stereotype of the modern day, and they extended it out to these people, these millennial, I guess, type people, and how the times have changed with them, how the relationships are done. I mean, you actually had a decent guy say, "No, I'm not going to have sex with you. I have a girlfriend."
Of course, that earned him a cross in the eye.
It did, but maybe that's a reflection of modern day times. I really don't know.
Well, yeah, I get your religion right here.
Right here, book. And it's just I did get that kind of enjoyment, and I do enjoy supernatural horror.
Sure.
As well, so that's why I think I got a little bit more out of this particular segment.
That's true. You are a big supernatural.
Yeah,
fan.
Love that stuff.
Yeah, with this one, I feel with kind of the others. I'm glad you enjoyed it more. I will say that the sex scene a bit was. I was watching that with Chase when we were doing the commentary, and we were like, okay, so this is why it's unrated. This and one of the other stories as well, which we'll move to the second one now, I think. And this one is the dysfunctional family one. Don, what'd you think about this one that involved the Krampus monster?
Probably the most unlikable characters in the entire film.
Yeah, every single one of these family members you didn't really give a shit about, did you?
Oh, no, they were horrible. And the more you found out about them, the worse they were. I mean, you've got the sex kitten daughter, who we were introduced to, you know, the one boy, the cross in the eye boy, that's his girlfriend, who is the only semi-decent one out of them, and she's apparently a kleptomaniac.
Right.
You've got the father trying to screw his aunt out of money because he's going to go bankrupt and go to jail because he's been lying and stealing and cheating money out of his clients. And you've got the mother who's a vapid whore.
Oh, and don't forget Duncan the kid who killed all the family pets.
That's right. How could I forget?
How can you forget little innocent Duncan, who I will say has one of the better moments in here when the dad goes, I want some family bonding time, and he gives the best look, I think, though, from the back of the car that I was just like, yeah, that's really a typical kid. Yeah, I like, though, the look of Krampus in this and the design of him. He looked really good, I thought, especially.
Oh my God, did you see the picture of the actor who plays Krampus? They didn't have to do much.
Krampus is a beefcake.
He was a beefcake, wasn't he, Angelique? But would you agree that these are probably the most deplorable characters and probably the most fitting, though, to have Krampus go and gut them with his hook?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of sad that they didn't all die, but, you know, the story had to go on.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, though, but this one and the previous one, all the ending of this movie calls into question all four of these stories, and we're going to get to that at the end, but just to give you something to think about makes you wonder, though, how much was real and how much was imagined as far as the Krampus monster goes. Just like in the previous one, how much of that ghost story was actually real. You know, I started calling into questions all these things as the film ended, going, well, maybe. So just something to chew on there for that. So, yeah, this family, Glenn, did you have any thoughts on this story here? Did you enjoy it? Did you like the look of Krampus? How'd you feel about this one?
I mean, Krampus was all right. I mean, for a direct-to-video movie, I mean, I did have fears when I could hear him, and I couldn't see him. I'm like, oh, God, just don't be some CG wreck. Just don't be some CG nightmare that looks like it came from a rejected 1993 video game. So I'm glad it wasn't that. And yeah, I mean, fine, let the people all get killed. That's fine, especially the boy. God, I wanted Krampus to pop up on the spot when he knocked that finger on the table and just like, that's it, you're dead. Rip his arms off and throw him in the fire. But again, parts of it, it's just because they were so unlikable. It's like I didn't care.
Right.
I think these type of things work best. I mean, you're going to have some people unlikable because if you want someone to die, you don't want to feel too bad about everyone who dies. You want to feel bad about someone. You want to at least be able to connect to somebody and say, "Oh man, you know, that person didn't really deserve it." I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, to a degree, I mean, you can say, "Well, yeah, they were jerks," but I mean, being a jerk doesn't really mean you should be eviscerated by a demonic Christmas spirit. But
For a completely unrelated reason, I connected to the aunt's butler.
Okay.
So, are you Krampus secretly then, Dawn?
Well, amusingly, I recognized him from something else.
Oh, okay.
The actor being Julian Richings.
Yeah.
Death from Supernatural
and,
you know, various other things, but you knew what was going to happen. I mean, that's death.
Yeah.
Who knows? They could easily probably spin it and attach it to supernatural. So, but I love the design of the creature and everything with this and that family.
It's already attached to ginger snaps.
Yep.
Oh, really? How's that?
The town that they're in is actually Bailey Downs.
Yeah, Bailey Downs is
the actual town.
Really? I
Yep.
didn't remember ginger snaps, so my wife loves it, but
The filmmakers are involved in that film.
well,
Films,
that would explain
I
it.
should say.
So they're trying to build their own
Universe.
universe, because that's what everybody does now.
Everybody does it, yes.
We're just
The
gonna
Castle
connect.
Rock of Canada.
The Krampus Avengers.
I will say, and Angelique, you mentioned Canada. I will say that their accent slipped in the church scene that you knew this was Canada. At first, I wasn't quite sure, but would you say that when their dialogue started there, when they got to the aboot?
Yeah.
Did you hear that at all, or was that just me?
I didn't catch it. But
Oh, you didn't catch it?
Yeah, I just knew this was Canada.
Oh,
I could smell it. I can smell the poutine.
she smells the boots and the bat bacon. No, for me though, I caught the dialogue. I was listening, and all of a sudden I'm watching, and all of a sudden, wait, what? Did they just? And then it came up again real quick, and I'm like, oh, this is Canadian. Because I hadn't looked up anything on this movie. It was just a blind pick. So, so I will say I do like how she finished off Krampus in this, and they led you to believe, I think, for a little bit she was going to go for the chainsaw, because she was crawling and there was a chainsaw and the gasoline. And I thought she was going to go for the chainsaw, but she went for the easier of the two, I guess, which is the gasoline. So there was a little unpredictability there. But yeah, the Krampus one had some really crappy people you don't like, well performed, and you were happy that Krampus killed them all, basically, well, most of them, and took one over. So,
On further reflection, I bet by the end of that one, you were actually supposed to be liking Krampus, considering where he went next and what was revealed next.
Yeah, well, like I said, once it was revealed at the end of the film, made you call into question a number of these stories of what was real and what wasn't. And I watched that going, I wonder just how much was this fanciful, imagination, and how much was it real, so, which leads us to the third story, which I really enjoyed this one quite a bit, because this was one that didn't really know what they were going to do with it when it first started out. And it's the cop, and he's the same cop who investigated the deaths in the school, which happened a year earlier on Christmas Eve. And he's with his family, and they go into the land where it's posted you're not supposed to go for that perfect Griswold Christmas tree. Didn't it have that feling?
Yes, it did.
It felt like, I'm like, oh my God, they're kind of doing the Griswold Christmas there. And the little boy is with the mom and dad, and he gets lost, and they supposedly find him out of the tree vagina and take him home, but there's something a little off about him. And as this story plays out, we find out things are really off with him, and it involves a changeling and a creepy old white guy. Yeah, Paul, how'd you feel about this story?
I thought this story was the best acted out of the segments, but I didn't think it was the strongest story. I actually did prefer the previous story.
The family
storyline. Yeah, I like that family, even though the characters weren't as strong as the ones in here. This segment was beautifully acted. You've got the two main characters kind of acting off each other. The kid was super creepy, and the white guy that you're talking about is just Big Earl. He just, my God, he just. At first, I thought, okay, this story is going to be something about him maybe kidnapping the little kid. And then there's like, no. And then it's like, okay, maybe this guy's going to help out. oh,
Yeah.
he's actually a big kind of like monster in a way too. And so, yeah, I just liked the acting in this segment.
Yeah, because the story, folks, as it goes along, is the little boy was replaced with a changeling,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some really creepy things that go on with him, if you put it.
Mhm.
Glenn, what about the little changeling who decided mom was kind of, yeah, how about that?
Yeah. How about that?
How'd you feel about this story?
Again, this is the other one that I just wasn't all that invested in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was okay. Trolls don't usually do changelings, so that part bothered me. But hey,
Yeah, well,
that's fine. That's fine if you want to get your mythology screwed up. Canada, it's not like American films haven't done it 18 billion times too. It's fine. It again felt very cliched in the, it's, of course, something possesses the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Dad has anger issues. Mom defends kid until it's too late for dad.
Really too late for dad.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mom seemed to have a few anger issues too with that bat there.
Well, that was, but I mean, well, although with how readily Mom handled him, I'm like, how did he kill Dad and get his hand? I mean,
he snuck up on the dad though.
Yeah,
and the dad was kind of drunk too. She's got more of that mom adrenaline going on.
Telling me anger issues Dad has one glass of scotch and he's all blah. Nah, I don't buy it.
Well, he is kind of messed up. I think they're going for the post-traumatic thing going on with it. Angelique, how'd you feel about this story with this one? I have to agree with Paul that it is probably the best acted.
It's great. The mom and everybody were really great. Not my favorite, but it did have some genuine moments, especially between mom and the kid and the whole spaghetti thing. I'm just like, that was just, my thing is, all right, your child stabs your husband. The solution is not go to your room. That's not how my mom would have solved that.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that the child, as small as he is, and my children do have hearty appetites, but the fact that the kid was on his second helpings before they even sat down to eat should have been a little trigger saying something's not quite right with you.
Well, I mean, for starters, I mean, your child hasn't spoken for 4 hours since you got home from Christmas tree hunting. I don't know the proper word there. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good
my
term.
tree is made of plastic, so. But like my thing, your kid hasn't spoken at all.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, kiddo? We're not gonna just sit down and have a fun family dinner while you're acting all creepy. There's my maternal instinct right there. I'm just like,
Yeah, you would have thought her maternal instinct would have kicked in a little bit more. Though I do give her props that once the creepy old white guy called her on the phone and said, hey, and I think that's way he's credited it in the film, actually. But the way he goes, hey, your kid's actually a changeling. I give her credit for going and starting to look things up right away. That was a little unexpected. I will say that, she just didn't sit there and go, whatever, crazy guy. She actually started to look things up like immediately. Dawn, how'd you feel about this one?
Oh, this one creeped me out a lot.
Yeah.
I have weakness for child peril. It bothers me. So yeah, that creeped me out. There was a few moments of that I kind of went, come on, you did so well up to now. Why you just no? But for the most part,
were those the shower scene and the bed scene? Did those bug you?
Those. Well, yeah, they bug me. But I mean, not as much as like what Glenn had said about they were doing so well for the most part up until the plot holes of how did the kid manage to completely overpower dad?
But mom took him out fairly quickly.
Well, not just that. How did mom not hear it? That's not
Right.
exactly Buckingham Palace that they were in.
No, they're in kind of a one bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment, and she wasn't that far away. You would have thought.
Well,
Go ahead.
If movies have taught me one thing, is that in movies laws of physics don't apply.
That's true.
I've watched plenty of movies where someone opens it with a machine gun, going room to room, and every door they kick in, the people are like surprised that there's a guy with a machine gun. It's like, he's been shooting this for like 3 minutes. What have you been doing? It's like, there's a drywall wall between you and the room where he just murdered 4 people. How did you? Oh, there's a guy with a.
I didn't think you'd come in here.
We do this all the time, where it's like noise doesn't carry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe they were both under the influence of some prescription drugs. I mean, like you said, Dad had some PTSD issues. He might have been taking his Xanax and playing Marilyn Monroe with the scotch, or Mom could have taken an Ambien. You know, it's modern times.
But again, so many other details were so well done, and that's why I had the problem with the little bit of slacking in some areas, because other areas were so well thought out. That's otherwise I thought it was a really well done segment, and probably definitely the one that creeped me out the most. I don't know that was necessarily my favorite, but it was definitely the one that creeped me out the most.
It was the creepiest one, and I'll say that scene with the dad where he's drinking and he's got the gun on the table made me wonder, was he going to possibly do something if he got enough courage? Or Paul, what do you think? Yeah, because that was a little odd. He had the gun out and he was drinking, and he's got a little post-traumatic stress going on. That wasn't really a good combination.
Oh no, definitely not. But I think it just kind of heightens that scene, though. I think it was meant to say, okay, this is how far this guy could go, and it could go even further. So I know I thought it was an okay thing to do.
And then we get to the changeling things where she takes the changeling to the end to the creepy old guy, and then she shoots him. Now. I don't know. I think that was the kind of weak point, though. I was trying to figure out what kind of power did he have over the changelings. What do you think they were trying to go for, Angelique, with that? I mean, it felt like, was he, controlling them, keeper of them? Because they could have probably taken off whenever they wanted.
Well, look at how easily the kid-sized one took down the veteran police officer, even with PTSD, Dad. So I'm thinking there may be some deleted scenes or something that we're not getting the whole story, because he would have had to have some magical, mystical hold to keep them in there. I don't know.
I think that because this whole segment was kind of about family abuse and the father being this person that potentially could hit the child. I think that's what he used to control him, that fear, because he was quite verbally abusive when he went up to the changeling when it was returned to him, and he was just like screaming at the thing, and you could tell that changeling was in fear, and he even mentions it to the wife, saying that that don't worry about them, they're all afraid of me,
Right.
And I think that's the message. It's like, he is the abusive father type of figure to the changeling. And that's what kept him in line. Just generation after generation of abusive, behavior toward them.
Well, and it was his family land, so he wasn't the only one who was abusive to him. They were probably suffering it at the hands of his family, their whole changeling life.
Exactly.
So
that begs the question, though, that makes it not quite make sense. Okay, I'm a changeling and I've got this little boy, and here's this family who obviously love this little boy. Why am I going to be mean and destroy them? Why don't I just live it up? Be like, yeah, Mom, pass me the spaghetti. This is great. I'm hungry. Give me presents. Don't murder everything. That's, I don't know.
Because it's nature. It's nature.
I was going to say, maybe it was, it's actual nature, and it saw an opportunity to escape and inflict abuse on something that, because he's been suffering abuse for so long, maybe the changeling wanted to take that out on, he saw the opportunity to take it out on someone else.
And he didn't do that until after the father became abusive toward him.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true. He didn't really start doing creepy stuff until the dad took out the belt and beat him.
Yeah.
I'm like,
But wait,
wow.
didn't spaghetti stab happen before he beat him?
It did. That's
Yeah.
true. You're right.
So,
Spaghetti
yeah.
stab. So,
But he was being verbally abusive at that point, too.
yeah, that's true. But I don't know if that warranted, if I've got it pretty good and I don't have to go to abuse farm with fat old white guy, I don't know if I'd sorry, I just
Take that guy.
I didn't like that guy at all. I like, yeah, all right. I'm glad that he got shot because I didn't like him at all. Yeah. So that one was about abuse and family, and that was kind of the theme going on there. And then we get the last story we want to talk about, which is the story, as I've alluded to throughout this episode, that kind of called into question these other stories, was Santa and basically the zombie elves in the fight with Krampus. Dawn, how about this one? I totally dug this one.
Oh, so did I. I am a fan of George Buza. I like things he has been in, so he was a fantastic pick for that role. I was wondering, did anybody else have any catching on as Will Shatner's going through his spiel and talking about the stuff at the mall? Was there any inkling that that's where it was headed?
Oh, with the Santa zombies?
Mm-hmm.
I fully admit I didn't catch it. Glenn, how about you? Did you know where that was going?
I did not.
Yeah. Anyone else? Paul?
I did, because I wrote a short story about Black Friday that did the same exact thing, only the security guard was envisioning that all of the shoppers were the zombie shoppers.
Mm-hmm.
That reality was what he basically had a psychotic break. So all throughout this entire episode, I was like, "Oh wow, this is exactly it." And then when it happened, so
That's awesome.
That is cool. You picked up on a because I
but only because I had written a story about it, and I think they had cleverly hid it. And if you just watch it, you will see all the little hints. They're it's almost not so subtle. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, the second viewing for me too, I was paying more attention. I'm like, holy crap, why didn't I pick this out before? Angelique, did it surprise you?
Totally.
At the end? Yeah.
Totally and completely.
To find out that William Shatner's buddy who went down to the mall is actually the Santa, and he's not fighting zombie elves. No, he's fighting and killing people in the mall. Which
Storm and Norman the Weatherman.
Yes.
Which I will say made me feel bad, because I think we're all kind of fans of Evil Dead here, and it had such an Evil Dead vibe, and I'm laughing as elves are getting slaughtered. And my favorite scene is where he takes the severed elf head and beats another elf with it. I was laughing so hard, my stomach hurt. I'm like, yes. And then at the end, we find out, no, those weren't elves. Those were real people. And it was a psychotic break. And then I went like, don't I feel like the asshole now?
Soylent zombies are made of people.
I did like that reveal, though. Angelique, how'd you like how that played out? Was that a nice surprise?
My jaw dropped. I was like, what? And it completely threw me. And then just seeing, I was so sad, because I was like, I was rooting for Santa the whole time. I was like, yeah, kick their ass, Santa. And then it's just some poor dude in a ratty mall Santa suit with a fireman's axe.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, man. Oh, it's so bad, but it was so good.
It was, but wouldn't you say that segment then kind of calls into question possibly what was real and what wasn't in the other stories, or do you think it just was pertained to that story, Angelique?
Oh man, it's so. No, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say that this is an independent story because you do have the town with all this history in it, the murder and everything really happened.
Yeah, and that was my question to you guys: did this story call into question the other things? Glenn, would you say the other things actually happened, and it just this story that was the alternate perception?
Yeah, I think so.
So this is more Creepyville, USA. Well, Canada, Creepyville, Canada. Sorry, not USA. That's what it's all
province.
Province, yes. But I did love. I don't care. This is where all the practical effects they had in there, which surprised me, just looked so good and were so much fun. Seeing zombie elves taking Santa on, it almost makes me wonder if they came up. No, go ahead, Dodd.
I'm just picturing that scene, that first scene where Shiny cuts his hand with the axe and he's squirting blood everywhere, all over all the other elves. It's getting everywhere. Oh my goodness. You didn't like my cookies.
Mrs. Claus is kind of attractive too there, so I'm just going to make that observation because I'm a horrible person. But I'll just say that I was looking at it going, wow, Santa, hey, there you go. And she making good cookies in that. And oh my God, that elf just cut his hand and called her, what did he call her? He called her something like a snow whore or something.
Something like that.
I just loved how the elves went crazy and suddenly they were just these little vulgar bags of evil.
As they should.
As the elves should, I think elves should. So I asked the group here to bring a question or a topic that they may want to talk about from this film that they'd like to get the group on. And if we haven't talked about it yet, Angelique, was there something specific that maybe you wanted to bring up that we haven't talked about already?
I just want to know what made Storm and Norman flip out. Why was he so mean to William Shatner? He was being so nice to him the whole time. Like, my buddies, Storm and Norman. Hey. And why? Why, Norman? Why?
Well, it makes me wonder because we saw the card, and I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. There was the card with William Shatner, and I think it might have had to do with possibly the killing that happened a year ago in the basement of the school. Because maybe it was connected to that. I don't know. Glenn, what do you think maybe set off Storm and Norman? Was just the holiday, or do you think he maybe was connected to that killing in some way?
No, I think it's just left. The guy didn't like Christmas for some reason, and then he's forced to do Christmas shit, even though he hates it. Guy probably has no one at home. He's a lonely, sad man. And he's forced to go and do this holly jolly bullshit that he doesn't want to do, and he finally snapped.
I'm just remembering that Shatner going, Leonard, why didn't you tell us about Christmas? And he writes on a piece of paper, fuck Christmas. And I'm just like, whoa. Don, what do you think sent him off? Just Christmas holiday blues, or?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to watch that beginning scene some more and see if I pick up more clues.
Yeah, because I think there's definitely a connection in some way, either with Shatner or whatnot, and the deaths a year ago, because he calls those two characters by their first names, and he's looking at the card, and then I'm like, but I couldn't quite catch the faces in the card because it's a little too quick. How about you, Paul? What do you think set off Santa?
I agree with Glenn. Mostly on that, because I think he's kind of overworked and he doesn't like Christmas, and things just piled up. Everybody around him is all cheerful, it's the holidays, and it's just like he's totally bombarded with all of this thing, and he just snapped, and maybe he does have some kind of tie into the what happened. And you have to think the events of those two people dying was exactly 1 year from that night.
Right.
So I mean, it definitely, you know, in the minds of the people there still. So.
Plus, he was locked in a booth with William Shatner every day, so
No kidding.
you know, that'll make anyone snap, right? Paul, how about you? Was there a topic or something that we haven't talked about that you want to bring to the group?
Excuse me. Cough.
Okay, we all cough now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me.
You okay?
Yeah, it's deep in my lungs right now. So,
Oh.
okay. So my question it has to do with basically growing up. I heard nothing about Krampus, and it just seems like in the last like 3 to 5 years, Krampus is everywhere. It's on The Simpsons. It's on like, you know, all these different episodes of things that are showing up. You know, maybe not The Simpsons, but you know, you see it everywhere. It's like in every movie now. You see movies just about Krampus, and I was just wondering, do you guys have that same experience? Like Krampus seems to be like the new thing that everybody seems to want to make a holiday tradition.
It seems that way, Glenn. What about you? You're our mythology type of expert, if you will. What would you say is the appeal with Krampus everywhere now?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, the way you see Krampus in the movies is not really the actual Krampus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've got his depiction pretty much right. You know, he's supposed to be like, you know, half goat, half man kind of thing. But I mean, it's a story told to, you know, to punish the bad kids. You have Santa who rewards the good kids. Krampus punishes the bad kids, but it's not like he runs around just slaughtering people just because. He likes to throw them in his sack and carry them away. That's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do have the chain right, but the chain is usually made for, you know, he chains people up. That's what he does. He wraps you up in chains, throws you in a sack, and carries you away. What he does afterwards, I mean, for all we know, you know, you just hang out at his place and
you
talk
just
about
don't
your
get
sins.
you just don't get presents. You talk about your sins. You have a cup of tea. You wait till Christmas passes, and then yeah, you can go back now. You just didn't get anything, but you got to hang with Krampus, so you know.
But then you have Boxing Day, so that's all good.
And there's Boxing Day. We can't forget Boxing Day. And sorry, I just had a couple of things pop into my head involving Rocky. But wrong boxing. Don, what do you think the appeal of Krampus is?
Oh, I don't know. I grew up knowing about Krampus.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that as far as entertainment goes, we are cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
It comes, it goes. It's our new fad. We'll get over it. But yeah, as far as Krampus goes, I grew up. So it's neat to see it become mainstream now.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting, and it's the new shtick, if you will, for it. It's like we mentioned earlier that holiday horror seems to be the big thing now as well.
Mm-hmm.
Angelique, how about you? You think Krampus the new fad? Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, there's kind of an appeal to throwing bad children in sacks and beating them with sticks, but. You know, it's just like Dawn said, it's that cyclical thing. You know, we're getting into a dark time, and it's been kind of getting darker over the last few years. And what better to kind of put the cherry on top of that darkness than a horrible Christmas demon?
Now that you mention it, the increase in Krampus sightings as far as films go increased during the election season. Because election season is now like 3 years long. Wow, there you go. Krampus is the embodiment of evil of the elections. There we go. Hey. So yeah, Paul, what about you? What do you think is the reason for the increase in Krampus?
I have no idea, which is why I wanted to know from you guys.
Cool. No,
I just
that's okay.
really have no idea. I've never heard of him. I've just recently got into Elfie on the Shelf or Elf on the Shelf. So all these new little holiday traditions, I prefer, It's a Wonderful Life. I'm okay with that, but I do enjoy the fact that there's holiday horror happening a lot more, because that's definitely my wheelhouse. So keep bringing more in there, keep bringing more of these type of movies. I don't care if it's all filled with Krampus or not,
I don't think we've had a horror movie Boxing Day yet.
Boxing Day, ooh.
Yeah,
Boxing Elena type.
Boxing Elena. No, that's a whole different type of boxing.
Oh.
Glenn, how about you? Was there something at all that you wanted to bring to the group today that we haven't talked about?
I brought my big thing of how this would have worked better as a creep show format, where you just did each short in its own way, as opposed to breaking them up. I mean, it's the thing is that you have someone who does something really good, like say a Pulp Fiction, where you have interconnected short stories that all play together. And I think people look at that and they say, hey, we can do that, but then they don't do it right. They have a bunch of short stories that are not really connected, and just the only connection is that, they all just happen to fall in the same city. Or this one person knows this person, but there's no really crossover as far as the actual stories intertwining for the most part. You've got the narrator, and you could have easily had the narrator doing, you could have had Shatner being, crypt keeper and just telling his little stories, and then moving on to the next one and do that, and it would have, I think, flowed much better, because you wouldn't constantly broken up like the Santa one, which was for the most part much more fast paced. Once it gets going, which only takes like a minute or two, as opposed to some of the other ones where I'm like, Jesus, would something freaking happen? And it just destroys the flow of each of the different ones.
Yeah, I will agree that they could easily. There wasn't anything too added by mixing up the threads. While I thought it was an interesting way to approach it, I could easily see it being probably even better had they just played each full story out, and then you see how they refer to each other, kind of like Trick or Treat, which this is felt like a Christmas version of Trick or Treat almost. But at least in Trick or Treat as well, you, for the most part, got the one complete story, and then we moved to the next one. They were interconnected. Dawn, what do you think? The interconnection, do you think it would have worked better, more like in the Trick or Treat style or the Crypt Keeper style?
Yeah, probably. I didn't mind it how it was, but I don't think it was as well executed as intended.
They were possibly they thought they were being more creative and hey, something fresh than what they were when they didn't need to be, possibly.
But, and like we've already mentioned, the stories, and like Glenn already said, if the stories were more interesting and more connected, it would have made more sense to have them playing back and forth. But because they weren't, it makes much less sense to have had them playing simultaneously and breaking them apart, as opposed to just being played sequentially.
You needed that Love Actually moment near the end where you actually get more of the characters all together versus, maybe have them all eventually go to the mall or something. I don't know. Then I think, that would have worked better. But, I think the way they did it didn't bother me too much, but it could easily have been done a little more standard way and still been enjoyable. I think, as well. Except I think I agree with Glenn, maybe putting it in Santa Claus in the beginning and in the end, start it off one way and then at the end, and then do that reveal. So, Dawn, how about you? Anything you wanted to talk about we haven't talked about already?
Oh no, I already asked my question.
Oh, okay.
That was it. That was if anybody caught on to it, because I
Okay.
felt at first I felt like, how the heck did I miss that?
Hmm.
And then apparently it was really easy to miss because it wasn't really obvious, except if you've already written a short story involving that same thing, Paul.
Yeah, unless you're an elitist like Paul, the rest of us low guys who are, I guess, not perceptive enough. No, just kidding.
0.11%, baby. I'm not even in the 1%. I'm the 0.11 because I'm that elite.
So I hope this wet your whistle and didn't ruin it too much and make you curious about this film. I think we'll just go down the line here, get people's final thought with this. See if would you recommend this horror film for the holidays, and your final thought on it. So Dawn, go ahead. Would you recommend it, and your final thought with this film?
Sure, for fans of the genre of the holiday horror genre, absolutely, I'd recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It was pretty. It was pretty.
It was there was definitely a budget here. I didn't look up exactly how much of a budget, but there was. Of course, it would probably be in Canadian dollars too, and I am a little off on my conversion skills. So, no, they don't mention the budget on this. So, Glenn, how about you? Would you recommend this, and your final thought with this as far as a holiday horror film goes?
I might recommend it if someone's looking for something. I don't know. I mean, if someone's just looking for a holiday horror show, I'd say watch Cadaver Christmas.
Yes.
But I mean, if it's Netflix and they're looking for something, sure, I'd probably say, well, this one's an all right one. It's got some good bits. Once you get past the first 40 minutes, where about 2 minutes worth of stuff actually happens.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, how about you, sir?
If you're looking for something a little bit different, I definitely would recommend this film. I thought it was much better than this other film that I watched, which was Silent Night, Bloody Night from 1972. I was really excited about that. Yeah. But no, this film, much better. Recommend this film. It's definitely different. Things that you think are convention, they do kind of throw on its head. And then the things that you think are not, out of the ordinary, they make convention, which is kind of weird. So,
excellent. And Angelique, how about you?
Oh, I'd totally recommend this one. It's gone into my Christmas stack. So.
And I have to say, I recommend it too, especially for your direct-to-video films that are out there that are horror-themed. This is probably one of the better ones, and don't let the direct-to-video or the cover fool you. As Dawn mentioned and the others have alluded to, there is a high production value to this film. There's kind of, that stigma, I think, for a lot of direct-to-video, and rightly so, that a lot of direct-to-video stuff has a lower production look, but there's a higher production value here than what the cover alludes to. You could tell some money was put behind it, at least, to make it look pretty. And the stories are interesting too. And if you're looking for a Christmas equivalent of Trick or Treat, this is probably the closest I've seen so far as quality and such. So yeah, check it out. If you have checked it out, you can always send us a comment in our email at spoilerroom.smp@gmail.com, or you can also message us on the Facebooks, on our group in the Facebook, where there's the Spoiler Room as well. And now this is the time where we let everybody here let you know where they go when they are not gracing us here with their sweet, sweet pipes. Dawn, where can they find you at?
You can find me at intheaudience.net.
Awesome. And Glenn?
You can find me on YouTube with Dynabunker Productions. Same as Facebook, and follow me on Twitter at Dynabunker.
Paul?
You can find me in Krampus's Christmas Sack.
Wow, my brain went to the wrong sack.
Oh my goodness.
I Wow, I don't know why
Oh,
that mental
my.
image just popped into my head, but
Wow.
I put you in.
Somebody's getting a visit on Krampus Nacht.
Yes, he will.
Well, besides in Krampus's sack, where else can they find you at?
Find me at Forsaken Film Reviews and also now at Film Jerks 2.0.
Awesome. You can't get that picture out of your head now, can you, Paul?
No.
Little eyes peeking over the edge. Anyway, Angelique, where can we find you at?
Not in Krampus's sack. Either version. You can find me on Facebook. You can also find me along with Paul at Film Jerks 2.0 on Astro Radio Z and a bunch of other shows on Astro Radio Z as well. And you can also read some fun movie reviews by myself and some cool cats at thelosthighway.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll have to add your links to the website, specialmarkproductions.com, where you can find all the stuff that I work on. I'll be posting some movie reviews again soon. Haven't for a while. But you can find all of our episodes of the Spoiler Room there, as well as past reviews and some other things that I work on if you're at all interested. But definitely check out all our fine Spoiler Room crew members' links. Some great stuff out there. So we appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Hope you all have a good and happy holiday. We're ending near the end of the year. Please subscribe if you haven't to us yet on the iTunes. Rate and comment. We always appreciate the feedback. We are also on the Facebook. Just look for the Spoiler Room. It is there. Also, Special Mark Productions. You can check it out there as well. And leave us a message. Let us know how you're doing, or if there's a film you want to hear about on the Spoiler Room. We'd love to get your thoughts and hear what you would like us to talk about here in the Spoiler Room. So that'll do it for us. Say goodnight, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.